Today we're going to be talking about using art to make a positive difference in the world. Art helps us identify with one another and expands our notion of we, from the local to the global. When people say that celebrities should stay out of politics, what they're really saying is that they want those people to entertain them, but not be human. I believe it's the duty of every celebrity, artist, athlete to use their life in the public eye to make the world a better place. If I'm being honest, I believe it's everyone's duty, whether that's through teaching, mentorship, raising upstanding citizens, recycling, protesting in the streets, or voting in every election cycle. So, how do we do this? Tell your story. Everyone has a unique story to tell. Create art even in the darkest times. Maybe especially in the darkest times. Create when we're in a state of political turmoil. Create when you're feeling your worst and share that with the world so that they understand how you're feeling. Use fame to bring light to social injustice. When Colin Kaepernick decided to take a knee during the football game, he made a lot of people angry. Even though it was a non-violent protest, he was bringing light to how African Americans are treated on a daily basis in the United States, and he believed what he stood up for. Use fame to bring light to established nonprofits. And when I say established nonprofits, I mean good nonprofits. I recommend using Charity Navigator to figure out which nonprofits are the right ones. Donating to appropriate nonprofits, I think, is a huge thing once you've achieved fame because you're setting a precedent for others. Telling a story that brings light to social injustice, like the movie Spotlight.
Your paper has the resources to take that on?
I do. Do you?
The Boston priests molested kids in 6 different parishes over the last 30 years. The church found out about it and did nothing. We haven't committed any long-term investigative resources to the case.
No, we haven't.
And that's the kind of thing your team would do.
Spotlight?
Telling a story that explains some sort of social phenomenon. Why does something happen? And what can we do as a society to make sure everyone gets the same opportunities?
Who is you, Sharon? For a long time, try not to remember. Try to forget all those times.
At some point, you gotta decide for yourself who you gonna be. Can't let nobody make that decision for you.
You gonna tell him why the other...
Telling stories of minorities. I will say this one again and again, and if you watch my video on diversity, you'll hear more about how important this is so that kids can see people like themselves in film and television and art in general. Making a political statement with art. I don't really have a reason for this one, it's pretty self-explanatory. A caveat. Not all art has to be dark or biographical. Sometimes it can just be as simple as making somebody laugh who really needed it that day. That was a lot. Now let's talk about practical applications for this. How do I put those beautiful goals into my musical? Create something that can withstand the test of time. So for my story, there will always be competition in a capitalist society. It might not be grades. Maybe 10 years from now we finally say, oh, we're putting way too much pressure on our kids to get into good schools and it just doesn't matter anymore. Well, there will still be competition in other ways. Another thing I'm hoping to do, and I'm not sure how I'm going to avoid this, but showing as little technology as possible in this film. Because it's just so distracting when you watch an 80s movie and they're holding a phone that's like 3 times the size of their head. Tell a meaningful story. This story isn't my life exactly, but I took elements of my life that were challenging or joyful and put them into this story so that it can feel truthful. Demonstrate diversity, which I really hope I'm going to do by casting the other lead as a non-white person, by casting characters that aren't heterosexual, by employing crew that are female, by employing people of color, period. All of these things matter. One issue that I'm hoping to bring to light with this movie is the psychological trauma that we put on our kids by expecting them to get great grades and use that to get into excellent schools. Especially kids who don't even want to go to college or want to study something untraditional. And kids who can't afford college and have to hope that they either get 100 scholarships or into an Ivy League school that will give them a full ride. Make it enjoyable. If I can make one person smile or feel inspired, then it'll all have been worth it. Donate a portion of the proceeds. If this movie ever gets made or becomes a real thing, I'd like for us to donate a portion of our proceeds to a nonprofit that works with homeless or impoverished youth or underserved communities, because those kids deserve a chance just as much as anyone else. So what else can we do with this story to have the most significant positive impact on the world? You tell me.